A lot of people are going to use English as a cop out, and this sort of mentality where English is the most dominant language, I don't need to learn a lot of other languages, doesn't really not only affects like popular languages when traveling, but it also affects a lot of other more specific and regional languages. So I wanted to maybe ask you, as a like a little bit of a tangent, how does the dominance of English as a global language affect or similar, smaller, or regional languages?
Mm, You've probably asked me my favorite question, and it's one that I can speak about for hours and hours, but I will spare you that. Obviously, English is in 2026 the dominant global language of communication, trade, research, business, and the ways that dynamic threatens other languages is extremely complex, and I would not be able to go into all of that. However, for me, it affects smaller languages in two ways. Firstly, the dominance of English dilutes cultures and it infiltrates spaces where traditionally other languages were commonly used. This is what I call linguistic globalization. And we see it in a lot of cities that are victims of over-tourism, like Dubrovnik, Barcelona, Lisbon, places where culture and languages once shone are now being filled with signs in English, coffee shops where you can only buy a flat white in English, big Anglophone chains. You can also see it in a lot of cities where there's large expat communities, for example, Brussels and Amsterdam. And any event that has the word expat in the title is always going to be a place where English is spoken at the detriment of other languages, but also at the detriment of other immigrant languages spoken in the room as first languages. In both of these contexts, English is used as a tool. It's used in its most soulless of forms. And for me, what I find the saddest is that it's the language that I hear in these environments is so diluted and so cultureless that it's drained of all of the childhood notions and attachments that I have to English. And so that's the first thing it does, is it dilutes other languages, their cultures. The secondly, English as a lingua franca naturally places it on a pedestal above all other languages. English, it becomes the language to learn. This doesn't only mean that people learn English over every other foreign language. It also means that immigrant parents, neither of whom are actually Anglophones, wish for their children to grow up speaking English and only English. And this willingness to give their children the best possible start in life and the best possible linguistic toolkit, if you will, often means that they blindly do not teach their own languages to their children, and they often don't transmit the heritage languages to their children because English is seen as so much better. And this is one of the main reasons why intergenerational transmission is dying, is because within one generation we can kill off almost every language. All it takes tomorrow is for everybody to raise their children in the same language, and all of the languages will die within one generation.
I mean, to a certain extent, yeah, but at least one of the great things about preserving languages is that there's tons of resources that allow people to kind of save those languages, maybe online spaces or like dedicated communities. I don't think it's like, yeah, it's very dangerous that sometimes people can completely disregard languages, and it's definitely happening. And in a previous episode, we also saw how it affects the world of academic research, because a lot of communities that had amazing new discoveries about philosophy or about medicine could not basically be treated because they were only speaking in Brazilian Portuguese, or they were speaking in a specific dialect, or maybe they're written in and I mean, in the academic sense, it's even like major languages. Even if you were even looking beyond that and going to like regional, or in your case Celtic languages, because we're going to talk about that soon, there's definitely a lot that can be preserved. But luckily there's a ton of resources. And
Of course. And also I do genuinely believe the tide is beginning to change. And I do believe that the tide is beginning to change. I see it. It's only a glimmer in the distance, but I see change happening. And you never know. First of all, lingua francas don't last forever. You never know, in the next 30, 40 years, our children may be scrambling to pass their HSK exam in Chinese instead of the IELTS in English. There also might be a future for us where people start seeing the value of minority languages again, and there may actually be a boom where people, for example, living in Barcelona say, no, we're not putting our signs in English. The only way that we can save Catalan is by having it present on the street without any exceptions, even if people don't understand it.
And it's interesting that, I mean, there's people that of course are retaliating towards like this attempted loss of language diversity, but I wanted to ask you more, maybe if you have some insights on what are the biggest threats nowadays to that, like the biggest threats to linguistic diversity in Europe.
Well, English.
The language.
The mentality that English is the only language worth learning, that it is the only language worth transmitting to your children, and not restoring intergenerational transmission like we once knew it. And this also is exacerbated by social media, cultural globalization, Netflix. The other thing as well that comes to mind when you ask me this question is this idea of centralized governments versus regional governments. And I certainly see that countries who have more locally focused governments and devolved powers, especially in terms of education and culture, are the ones that manage to preserve their languages a lot more. And this is another reason why I don't think it's a good idea, for example, for regional integration to go further than it is in places like the EU, because I see that a move towards more federalized form of the EU, for example, would have a detrimental effect on local cultures and on the policy that is made to preserve languages. Already on a federal level within Germany, they're not capable of saving their minority languages because German is the language of the federal state. Imagine that if that was to become a continent-wide government system.
But so you basically, so you do think that governments should be actively trying to preserve that these language diversities?
Of course.
What about like communities? Do you think the communities also should be involved, or is it mostly responsible for like a governmental body to take this on?
I see the problem of linguistic diversity. I see it as exactly the same as saving the planet. It's exactly the same problem. We are losing something precious that we need to get back. And that takes not only government strategies, policies, and the power and influence of national and international governments, but also it requires communication of such projects and awareness down to the community level so that people can actually take the actions. And one can't exist without the other. You can't have a government dictating language policy without any buy-in from local speaker communities. And you can't have speaker communities battling to save their language with no support from governments. The two need to work together. And this, unfortunately, this is what's happening in the last example that I gave there is actually what's happening in France.
And that's actually interesting to see, because like now you talked about Germany, becoming a federal, it's not called a federal state, but federalization of Germany. But while the rest of Europe is surprisingly, even though they have a lot of things in common and with the EU, there's also a lot of differences in the way that they approach things like culture or things like languages. So maybe in your experience, since you got to see so many places, like have you noticed some policies that maybe differ between France or the UK or somewhere else? Maybe they differ in the way that they preserve languages and culture?
It couldn't be more different. It couldn't be more different. France is a heavily centralized state. Paris is the center of France for everything, and Paris sets the bar that other regions have to jump over. Which means that if Paris isn't interested and if Paris doesn't give the go-ahead, it doesn't happen. Whereas the UK is a nation of nations, which means that in all of the 4 composited countries of the UK, there's actually devolved powers, which means that Wales has its own Senedd, Scotland has its own parliament, Northern Ireland has its own assembly. And this allows them and gives them the power to make policy to preserve their own languages. And the biggest example of this is the Languages of Scotland Act, which was passed in 2025, which was actually put through and made it put into Scottish law, which actually made Scottish Gaelic and also Scots, which is a somewhere on the spectrum between a dialect and a language, official languages that have the same status as English within Scotland. And only they, with devolved powers, had the capacity to make policy that has that effect. And in France, regions have no power.
I was about to ask about Breton. If there's like anything about it that like any sort of movements or developments, but it seems like
of course there's movements, but they're all community-led. They're all community-led, and Paris doesn't really care, and they certainly don't give any autonomy to these regions to have a say in how their languages are promoted. And even, for example, bilingual road signs, which are something which in Wales is law and which are paid for by the state through taxpayer money, bilingual road signs in places like Brittany or places like Alsace, they have to be paid for through donations, and they have to be paid for by local charities and associations, and sometimes they're even taken down by the state, and they're actually taken. And another example is in Brittany, you can't have any non-French symbols in your name. So, for example, in the Breton language, there is the N with the tilde, like in the word espagnol. Okay, and that exists, and that's a letter in Breton. However, the French government does not allow you to call your child any Breton name which has this letter in it, because the French centralized law doesn't allow children to be registered with any non-French letters in their name.
Seems like it could be a very easy fix logistic wise. I don't know why they're still very adamant about this.